I think you should create your own spells. I think you should stop looking for spell books and just do it. Stop being afraid. And I know it's fear because I was very hesitant when I first started doing spells. I kept looking online on social media specifically for spells that I can do, and I would literally do everything they did. And if I had to substitute something, I would Google what to substitute. And I was very nervous to mess up the spell. And the thing about Spellwork is it is way more powerful when you create it yourself, when you trust your inner knowing, your intuition, and the things that you have learned, and combine all of that and combine it with your energy and your intention, because your intention is the most powerful part. You can then create a really powerful spell. So I want to share with you today tips on how to create your own spells. Hi, lovely witch. My name is Rosa. I'm the Divine Feminine Witch, and I help witches feel empowered through working with the goddess. And today I want to give you tips on how to create your own spells. I think especially when we're starting out, we get into the mindset that we need to do exactly step by step what other people are doing in their spell work. And we treat it almost like a cooking recipe or a baking recipe, because for baking you have to be very precise, but it really isn't. You can get as creative as you want. And that being said, I do want to preface this with, this is based off of my practice and my beliefs, and I also work with intuitive based magic, meaning I let my intuition guide me in everything I do. If you are trying to work with high magic, Kabbalistic magic, chaos magic, and whatever other special types of magic, I would suggest going to go look specifically for those styles. And if you want to know a little bit more of what each style is like, or a summary of it, I do have a blog post available for that. I'll link it in the description. But yeah, I want to give you some tips on creating your own spells based off of my intuitive led magic. I hope that made sense. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Okay, so grab a tea, grab your journal or grimoire, and let's get started. In order to create your own spells, you need confidence. You need to be able to believe that you can do this, because you can. Your intention is super important, and your mindset is super important in order to make your spells actually work. It doesn't matter if you copy somebody word for word. If you have some doubt, then it might not work as best as you would hope. And I do have another blog post on building confidence in your spell work. So I'll link that in the description. Feel free to check that out. I also think it's important that you need to understand the basics before diving into creating your own spells. And the basics are strengthening your intuition, which I do have a video on, understanding energy work, which I have another video on, understanding the elements and how they work in spell work. And I actually have a blog post on that, so I'll link that in the description. And understanding that your intention and visualization is important. So like I said, you need to build confidence in order to believe that you can set the intention that you are trying to set. Your intuition is important when it comes to spell work, especially because when you are trying to create your own spells, you should let your intuition guide you. If it feels right to use chamomile in that spell working, use it. If it feels right to use rosemary, use it. If for whatever reason you want to use Amazonite instead of rose quartz in a self-love magic, do it. Which, by the way, Amazonite is associated with self-love. It's just not the most commonly known one to go to. But maybe your intuition is telling you to use that one rather than the other one for a specific reason. If your intuition is telling you that this is going to work, then that is going to help the potency of your spell working. There are so many ways to build the strength of your intuition, and the most important thing to remember is in order to build it, you have to trust it. It's like a muscle. The more you use your intuition, the stronger it becomes. And then understanding energy work. If you just throw a bunch of ingredients together, it's not necessarily going to work out for you unless you've incorporated energy, unless you understand what energy is. Energy is in all of us and in everything. It is in the microcosm and the macrocosm. Energy is what makes everything move. I talk more about this in my Energy Work 101 video, so I will link that. I also give you a little bit of a guide on how I like to ground and center my energy in order to make my spells work. And then understanding the elements is also another basic into creating spell work. You need to understand that fire is a fast working and will give things like that, but it might also be short. Water is slower energy, and so it may take longer for your spell work to happen. It's also associated with gentle emotions, and so maybe you don't want to do certain spells with it and do other kinds of spells with it. I feel like I'm mumbling because I've been talking a lot already today. And then incorporating the earth element is also slow, but it's sturdy and grounded. And air is quick too. It's effective, but I feel like it's very flighty because it's air. And so once you understand the energy of different elements, then it'll help you understand what ingredients to incorporate into your spell, because different ingredients are associated with different elements. All ingredients, including crystals, herbs, incense, certain fragrances, I'm trying to think of other ingredients in spell work. All ingredients involve all of the elements, but at different levels, if that makes sense. For example, all crystals are, for the most part, associated with earth energy because they're rocks. But an aquamarine is associated more with the water element, where an amethyst is associated more with the air element. And this is pertaining to their specific energies. The more you learn, the more you will understand it all. I don't want you to get too in your head about elementals and are you using enough earth elemental in this, and are you using enough fire elemental, or should you use water elemental instead? That will eventually come naturally to you with practice. I just think it's important to understand the basics of elements for you to decide what the base of your spell working is going to be. If you want something fast and strong, I would suggest making a spell that is a candle magic spell. If you want something a little more grounded and a little more permanent, you could do something like a poppet, because that's mostly going to incorporate herbs and other earth elements. And so these are just examples. When you create your spells, you want to start off with your intention. And I personally like to journal first. I like to figure out what my goal is, what I'm trying to do. And I will journal about it. And sometimes that will help me figure out if I even need to do a spell at all. Other times I will do tarot, and that might tell me that I need to do a completely different kind of spell. So you could do divination. Tarot's one way. You can use a pendulum. The first step is to figure out if you even need the spell or if you should do a different kind of spell. Then from there, you want to create an intention. It could be a simple phrase, or it could be a prayer, or it could be whatever comes natural to you. Something you want to focus your mind on. And then from there, you want to decide what kind of spell it's going to be. My go-to is candles because it's pretty simple. You just need the candle. You need something to anoint it with, charge it with, and you need the ingredients that you want to incorporate around the candle or on the candle, and then you light the candle. But you can also simply do sigils You could do a sachet, a poppet. You could create a crystal grid and meditate around that. And that right there is a type of spell. You could do a jar spell. There are so many different kinds of workings. I think one of my very first blog posts was on different types of spell work. So feel free to check that out. My blog is very much designed for beginners, so there is so many helpful posts on there. Once you figure out what type of spell you're going to do, then you grab your ingredients. And this is where I let my intuition do its thing. If a certain ingredient pops up in my head, I take that as a sign that my intuition is telling me to use that ingredient. Sometimes my spells only require about 2 to 3 ingredients. Sometimes they require like 20. While I'm gathering my tools, I am also thinking about my intention, and that alone right there will help activate my intuition and tell me about another ingredient. If you need help with finding ingredients that correspond to your intention, I would recommend checking out this book, The Complete Book of Correspondences. This is a pretty heavy book. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. And I'm not going to say I agree with it 100%. There are some things in here that I'm like, no, I know this herb is going to work for this specific intention. Even though you didn't mention it in that intention, I feel like it is. And so if I feel like it is, I'm trusting my intuition because that is aligned with your intention. If you believe something is true, then that is going to help amplify the intention of your overall spell working. Don't trust other things to tell you what is right and wrong when it comes to your spell work. You can use books like this as references to help you out when you are first starting out, but the more you build on your intuition, the more you will understand how to just let it come to you naturally. I think that book is really helpful to get you started, but I also do want to emphasize that I don't want you to rely on it as like the rules of magic, because there is no rules, okay? It's just a good reference book that kind of gets you more comfortable with certain correspondences. And then from there, you can build on that. I associate rosemary with a lot of things. And I also know that rosemary grows abundantly around me. And so I use that a lot for a lot of different things. And that's another thing I want to mention is look at the environment around you. What kind of plants and rocks are most common in your environment? I feel like because it's already in that environment and you are working with the energy around you, that's going to make those ingredients more powerful than other ingredients you're not so familiar with. Aside from things that are very common and natural in your environment, I would say you also want to pick and choose tools and ingredients that just resonate with you the most. And this could be based off of ancestral or cultural traditions. I am Hispanic, and there are a lot of traditions within my family alone that I have noticed that are kind of witchy. My family doesn't say they're witches, but they do traditions that are very, very witchy. And so I like to incorporate those things into my witchcraft. And I feel like because I am working with a heritage that I grew up with, a culture that I grew up with, it just makes it stronger. It makes the energy and the intention stronger. All right, I know this was more chit-chatty than a very organized video, but hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you are now a little more confident in creating your own spells. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with somebody else you think might benefit. And thank you so much for watching.